Begin the Gemara today on Kuf Samach Beis Amud Beis, the last line. Hiboya lahu. This goes back to what was taught before here in the Gemara. The Gemara brought from a Braisa that tells us you never could learn in a shtar from the Shita Achreina. The last line, right before the signature, is you can't put new information there. We don't learn from what it says there. And the reason is because we're concerned that the one that has the shtar might want to add in the last line some new information after the signatures are on the shtar already. So therefore, the last line, the Chacham and Mitzvah Torah, you just repeat what it said before. So therefore, the Braisa before said, when you have two empty lines between the shtar and the signature that were left empty, that's a problem. Because now, the one that has the shtar has the opportunity to fill in one line and to fill in a second line, and the first line that he's going to fill in, he can put in whatever new information he wants. But if there's only one line that's in between empty, then it's not a problem, because that one line that's empty, what is he going to do? He can't fill in any new information there anyways, because whatever he's going to put in there, we don't learn from that new line. So if there's one line empty, it's going to be kosher. So here the Gemara is going to go through mamish in detail, different details here, to describe this space of two lines. How wide exactly, very exactly, how wide do those two lines have to be in order to say that it would be a problem, that it would be puzzle? So first, the shaila here was Shnei Shittin Shamro. Got it? Shnei Shittin Shamro. Yeah. The two lines that were said, that space that's going to be a problem. Is it Hein Ve'aviran? Is it the actual line where the writing is on? But also, whenever you write a line, there's usually some space above that line and below that line, between the two lines. When you write letters, and at least in Lashon Kodesh, so and in other languages also, the letters go up. There's letters that go down, like a lamed goes above the line, a chaf goes below the line. So you're writing the actual, there's the space of the line itself, and then there's uppercase and lowercase, exactly. So there's what goes up and there's what goes down. So do we say here, when it's said in the Braisa that when you have two lines of space, it's a problem? Does it include the line itself and those spaces, above or below the line? Or maybe no, maybe it's referring just to the space of the line itself. As long as there's two spaces of a line, even if it doesn't have any additional space of above and below it, that would also be a problem. Because maybe we would be chayshish that this person that has the shtar would squeeze in a line over there with still another empty line below it, and then we would use that information, and he could add whatever he wants. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, so Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Mistavra, it's logical to say, the Hein Va'aviran. The problem of leaving two empty lines is only if you leave two full empty lines, the lines and the spaces that these lines have. Because if you'll say that the problem is when he has just those spaces of the writing of the lines itself, without any additional spaces. But if that's the case, shita achas beloy avira lemay chazia, to say that this person that has the shtar would use one line without any additional space, what is it worth for? He's going to write, and we're going to see right away that he squeezed in something new over there that wasn't supposed to be there. You can see that it's not one line and then another line, because it doesn't have the proper space. So Ella, Shema Mina, therefore it's logical to say, Hein Va'aviran, that when there's a problem of leaving two extra lines, it's only when you have those lines together with the spaces that it needs, then there's a problem that he might add in something. Shema Mina, this is a raya just from Mistavra, Misvara, it makes sense to say this. The Gemara before on Kuf Samach Beis said something similar when there's a line and a half of space in between. Now the Gemara is saying that it's a line and a half won't be puzzle, but even two lines won't be puzzle unless you have proper two lines with the spaces that are needed to write two full lines, then it's going to be a problem. Okay, but the Gemara is not done with this. Here the Gemara brings a few different opinions. We just said that you have to have the line and the spaces. Exactly how many spaces do you need to have for these two lines here? So Rab Shapsa Yama Mishmei Dechizkiya, Shnei Shittin Shamru, when it says here that you have to have these two lines, and we just said that it has to be lines with the spaces of the lines, what that means, so the first thing he points out is, what size of writing, the letters themselves, how large are these letters that you write? So he says, Biksav Yidei Edim. So it should be by the handwriting of Edim, which Edim are ordinary people that write and sign their name. Don't go by the size of the lettering that the scribe writes. Usually a sefer that's writing, this is what he does. He writes status all day, so he knows how to write much smaller letters. A Edim that sign, or any person that writes letters, he usually writes a little bit larger. So when you're looking at these lines, that the extra lines that could be a problem, it's the ksav of the Edim. Why? My timer. Because what are we concerned about when you have two extra lines? That this person would write in himself information. So now, this person, if he's mezayef, if he's forging and writing his own information, who's doing this? If he's not going to go to the cipher to the scribe that wrote this star after it was already signed, and there's extra lines left there, he's not going to go to the cipher and say, could you write me in another line over here that this person owes me another $10,000? No cipher is going to do that for him. So he's doing it himself. So therefore, he's an ordinary person that doesn't write these small letters like the cipher. So it's only going to be a concern that he could add in another line if it's wide lines in the lettering that normal people write.
But then you'll see right away that it's Mizuyif.
No, lav dafke. He'll claim and say that I wrote it, not the cipher, but the Adam signed afterwards. You can still use it to be mezayef. Okay, but the Gemara is not done. This Gemara still will explain more specifically when we said the two lines and the spaces, how many spaces. So there's two lines, as we discussed before, the uppercase, lowercase, or you have, like I said, a lamed, which goes up the line, or a langechof that goes below the line. So if you're going to have two lines with spaces, how many spaces do you need?
4. So,
well, you could say 4 spaces, right? Because you need for the top line a space above and below, and for the bottom line a space above and below. But the Gemara is going to bring 3 opinions about this. Says the Gemara, Hasavakama, how many spaces do you need for these lines in order to be concerned? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar, Kagain, Lecha, Lecha. If you are writing the two words Lecha, Lecha, one on top of the other, Zeh al Gabi Zeh, one on top of the other. So in such a case, you're going to need space for the lamed on the top line that's going up, and the space for the chaf that's going down, and the same for the other one. You're going to need space for the lamed and the chaf. So Alma, from here we see, what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying is, Kasavar, he holds Shnei Shittin, that you have these 2 lines and this Varba Avirin. There's 4 spaces, because in the top space, there's a space above the line and below the line. And in the bottom line, the second line, there's also a space above and below. The Rashbam actually says that when you're writing these 2 words, L'cha, L'cha, you're going to need a space, 2 spaces between the 2 lines when you're writing the Chaf of the top line right above the lamed of the lower line. Okay, if you have the chaf from the top line that's going to be above the chaf from the lower line, so then you're not going to need that extra space there because the chaf doesn't have anything sticking out going up. So when the Gemara says zeh al gabi zeh, it doesn't mamish mean literally one on top of the other. It means the chaf from the top line is above the lamed from the lower line. So then you're going to need 2 spaces between the lines and 1 space above the line and 1 space below the line. So that's 4 spaces. That's what the Rashbam says. Taisa says a little different, but that's how the Rashbam understands this. Rav Chia bar Ami mishmei de'ula amar. So Rav Chia bar Ami said that in the name of Ula, Kogain, no, the way the spaces that we need here are lamed mulmaila, a lamed on the top line, and v'chaf mulmata. And there's a long chaf on the line below. But not l'cha l'cha, one on top of the other. So what do we see from his opinion? Alma, what we see is, Kasaver, he holds, Shnei Shitin, that there are 2 lines here, V'shloisha avirin. And there are only 3 spaces, because you have 1 space above the top line, then that's for the lamed that goes up, and then you have a space below the bottom line, that's for the chaf that goes down. But between the 2 lines, it's enough to have 1 space. You don't have to have a space for the chaf that goes down from the top line and for the lamed that's coming up from the bottom line. So in between the 2 lines, there's only 1 space. So that's 3 spaces. Rabavo says, when we said that you have to have spaces, Kagain Baruch ben Levi b'shita achas. If a person is writing Baruch ben Levi on 1 line, so not 1 line, 1 thing, and not in the second line something else. So just on the top line, on 1 line, he's writing the words Baruch ben Levi. So what do we see from this? Kasavar, he holds Shita achas. You have to have 1 line, Ushnei avirin, and only 2 spaces. Meaning there has to be a space for, in this, when you write Baruch ben Levi, there's the lamed that goes above, so that's a space above the top line, and then the chaf that goes down below, that's a space between the first and the second line. But between the second line and below that, you don't have to have any space for that. So there's only 1 space above the top line and 1 space below the top line. That's it. That's enough to be concerned that this person can add in his writing over there in that place. So the Gemara Omar Rav. Now Rav said about this halacha that it said here in the Braise, Lo yishanu, we didn't learn this halacha that once you have space of 2 lines, it's going to be a problem that the person could now add in information. Ela ben edem l'ksav. That's in the star between the information, the writing of the star, and where the Edom sign. There we're afraid he's going to write in. Avol ben Edom la'ashrete, but in a star, what happens below Edom? When you bring the star to the Bezdin, so now the Bezdin has to confirm that these signatures are valid, and the Bezdin writes their ashrata. It's also called a hempik usually. The Bezdin confirms the star, they write below, us 3 people, we have confirmed the star, and they sign their names. That's what's called the ashrata, which are signed usually below the Edom. So now, between the Edom, between the signatures, and where the Bezdin signs their names, that which is called the ashrata, afila tu v'nami, even if you have a lot of space, even more than 2 lines, kosher. It's going to be okay. We're not afraid that the Balashtar is going to go and write information there in that space. So the Gemara will explain this. Now, why not? Why aren't we afraid that he could write things there? What's the difference between the signatures of the Edom and the writing of the star? So we don't want space of 2 lines. Dilma Mezayev because of my boy. He can forge and write whatever he wants. And the Chasim Sadi. The Edom are already signed in it, so he can just write whatever he wants. But if so, ben Edom la'asher tanami. So if the space in this paper between the Edom and where the Bezdin signs, same thing. Mezayev v'kosav my boy. He can forge and write whatever he wants. And v'chasim sadi. The Edom are already signed in it. So why shouldn't there be an issue that he can write more information below the signatures?
Which Chasim Sadi? That's the regular Edom, not
yeah,
the chart.
Correct. The regular Edom are signed over there.
So we learned before that if it's after the Edom, if you write anything after Edom, then it's not.
No. If there's the Gemara before said by a shtar makusha, that if you write below the Edom, you're right. By a shtar makusha, if you write below the Edom, that's a problem. It's a tight star. Or if after you wrote the word shtar v'kayim, if you write after that, it's a problem. But in a regular star, if there's information after the Edom, it's still kosher. It's still okay. You could still claim that he wrote this over here and the Edom signed in the middle. You could still use that information. So if so, you can still add in. Answers the Gemara that the reason why between the Edom and the Bezdin that signs, the space there, it's not a problem because the Metayetle, he inks it in, meaning he puts there. Like Places says, usually when you have a legal document and you don't want anyone to add information over there, what do? You just make a line through that area, or you put dots in that area, or X maybe. You put an ink over there that you're not able to add anything. So therefore, you can leave empty space there as much as you want, but it can't really be empty. You have to put an ink over there. If that's the case, so then why are we making this distinction here? That between the Edom and the Bezdin's signatures, you can put in this ink there, but do the same thing between the Edom and the star above. Metayetle, ink in, put an ink over there. So the Gemara says, no, if you're going to do that, then the people are going to say that Sadi atiyutahu d'chasmi, that the Chasimi, that when people see signatures, people are going to say that the signatures here, they're not signing on the information of the star. What they're signing on over here is regarding these 2 lines that you put in these ink, that they're the ones that know that the ink that was supposed to be put in there. They're just signing on that. They're not signing on the information on the star before. We don't want the signatures to be just on this after these 2 lines where there's ink, there's lines over there. We want the Edom to be right after the actual information of the star. If that's what your concern is, that you don't want signatures after this ink here on the star, if so, ben Edom la'asher sanami, if you put in the ink in the paper between the signatures and then the signatures of the ashrasa of the Bezdin that signs, sanami omri bedina to yutu the chasimi. So then they're going to say when you have the Bezdin that's confirming, what are they confirming? They're confirming that we put in this ink over here, that this area is for office use only, that don't write any other information there. But they're not confirming the actual validity of the signatures in the star itself.
I think I'm going through all this whole thing. Just say that you can't write it if you write anything. You can't write anything after the signature, like you said by the Makusha. That's the whole problem.
No. So the Gemara says, Beidina atiyuta lechasmi. That if we see the signatures of a Bezdin after you have these lines or the dots in this area, we're not going to say that the Bezdin was only signing on that they put in those lines there, because Bezdin is not coming to sign just on lines. Bezdin, when they sign to confirm the validity of the signature, the shtar itself. But by regular Edom that signed though, it's not a Bezdin. Bezdin, we know that Bezdin signs, they're signing for a proper purpose for the shtar itself. When you have regular signatures, which are regular people, it could be Amaratzim, and you ask them to sign, and maybe you could say that their signatures would go only on those lines that would be before their signatures. It's not necessarily going on the whole shtar. Now the Gemara has a different concern. Fragt the Gemara, why would we be concerned? So again, what did Rav over here say? That between the signatures of the Eidim and the signatures of the Bezdin, you can keep empty space there, and you put lines there or dots there. You put an ink there, but that's not a problem. Okay, but now the Gemara asks, this is something else that this person could still do. Why wouldn't we be concerned? Dilma gayes le'ela. How about if this person would cut off this paper? He'll cut off the top part with the signatures on the top. And what will he leave? He'll leave above the confirmation of the Bezdin, he'll leave this area that had ink in it. And he's going to erase the line or the dots that were there. He's going to erase that. And the cost of my boy. And then he's going to write whatever he wants. Umachtim sadi. And he's going to forge signatures of Eidim. And he has already, why is he doing this? Because this is for him an opportunity. He has a shtar that has a confirmation of the Bezdin, and he has this area that's empty above it. It just has some ink in it. So he's going to erase the ink, and then he can write on it and forge signatures, whatever he wants. And now he's not going to have to validate these signatures because he already has the confirmation from the Bezdin below for these signatures. Now, you may think, when we're going to see such a kind of shtar that's written on a document that was erased, we're not going to accept it, because we see that it was erased, so there's something that may be problematic with this, but that's not true. Rav himself said, "Shtar haba hu ve'edav ala mechak kosher." When you see a shtar, that the whole shtar and the edim are all written, the entire document was written on before, now it was erased and it's being used a second time, it's all kosher. There's no, just like if you write on a regular shtar, on a regular paper, it's kosher. When it's all erased, it's also going to be kosher. There's no difference. Rashbamir says, we'll see, the Gemara will explain this on the next stuff actually. If you see a shtar where you can tell that the Eidim are being signed on a part of this document that was only erased once, and the information above is on a document that you can see was erased twice, so then there's a problem over here, because then it looks like that you erased after these Eidim signed already. But if the entire document from the beginning to the end is all a document that was once erased, and on that you write the information and you have a signature, so then Rav says that's not a problem. So if so, we can still be concerned over here when you have this space of ink before the confirmation of the Bezdin. Why can't he cut off the top part of the shtar? He still has a few empty lines there, and he'll write in information and forge signatures, and now he has it already confirmed because he has the signatures of the Bezdin on the bottom. Says the Gemara, Rav Kahane. This is a question this is not a question this is not a question on Rav's opinion. According to Rav Kahane, the Mastin lo Mishmei de Shmuel. So then Rav Kahane says that who's the one that said that you can write a document on an erased document? Shmuel said so. So then it's not a contradiction of what we're asking here. According to Rav said you can keep empty space above the signatures of the Bezdin, above the Asher said. But Rav Tavyemi, the Mastin lo Mishmei de Rav Tavyemi, he says that Rav is the one that said this, that you can write a shtar on an erased document. So then how could Rav now say that you can keep empty space above the confirmation of the Bezdin? Okay, so now the Rishonim here discussed, the Rashbam, the Tosfos, and all the Rishonim here discussed, this question the Gemara is asking should seemingly be a question not only on this particular halacha that Rav is saying, that when you have empty space that you're leaving between the signatures of the Eidim and the signatures of the Bezdin, that you could cut off and then write in what you want there and erase the ink. You have to erase the ink and put in what you want there. Seemingly, this is a question on every single shtar. Anytime you have any shtar, so he can erase all the information. He doesn't have to cut it off. If it's possible to erase this ink, so let him erase the ink of all the information that's written before and write whatever he wants and forge signatures. So it's really a question on every shtar, if this is a possibility. Okay, so the Rashbam says on the Chanami, the question the Gemara is asking is on every single shtar. But other Rishonim disagree. Other Rishonim say that it's hard to erase words. When you erase words, after you erase, we're not talking about over here erasing with whiteout or erasing after you erase, you could still see a remnant of what was there before. When you have writing of words that was there before, even after you erase, you can still see some words that were there before, so it's hard to erase it. But if you have just a line that was across or some dots, so then that's much easier to erase. That's what the Gemara is asking the question dafka on this. Another pshat that Rishonim say is that a person is very afraid to erase all the information that's written in the shtar. Because if he actually erases that, and now he forges and writes other information and forges signatures, what happens if his forgery is caught? The original star that he had is gone. So he has not the forgery and not the original star. He has nothing. But if a person is cutting off the star with the Eidim, and now he has some empty space to write himself a new star, what happens if his forgery is caught? He still has that original star with the Eidim, and he'll be Mekayim that. It's not so he's not throwing out his star. So therefore, we're concerned that he'll cut off the top part of the star, and he'll try to forge in the lower part. That's why Dafka here there's a concern. Okay, so the Gemara says, Kasavar. So the answer here is Rav holds that in such a case, or according to the Rashbam, this is really an answer for every single star that's written in such a way that you see that it was once erased before. That kol ki hai gavne. Anytime we see this kind of star that is written on an erased document, and now it's coming to Bezdin, and we see in front of us a star with signatures and with a confirmation of the Bezdin, and it looks all perfect and beautiful. But one thing, this is a star that was once erased before. If we don't recognize any of these signatures, not the signature of the Bezdin, not the signature of the Eidim, and we want to be Mekayim it's not going to be enough just to be Mekayim, just to confirm and to validate the signatures of the Bezdin. Because if you only validate the signatures of the Bezdin, it could be that the Bezdin signed it on a document that was actually there before, but now he cut off and he put different signatures there. So in such a case, it's not going to be enough just to validate it from their signatures. Element Eidim Shabai. You're going to have to validate it by validating again the signatures of these Eidim. So if he forged it, we're going to catch his forgery. So by a regular star, which is written on a blank document, and you have a proper writing, and then you have the confirmation, so you can confirm the star, validate the star by validating the signatures of the Bezdin. But in such a case where you see that it's all being written on an erased star, you're going to have to validate again those signatures of the Eidim themselves. So therefore, his forgery will be caught. Another opinion the Gemara brings, Rabbi Yochanan says, okay, so this is going again back to the point that we learned before about keeping space in the star. So again, the Braisa said anytime you have space of 2 lines between the information of the star and the Eidim, it's a problem. And on that, Rav said that's only between the star and the Eidim. But between the Eidim and the confirmation of the Bezdin, you can keep more space there. You just put lines over there. You put an ink there, and it's not a problem. And the Gemara explained all the details why it's not a problem. Now, Rabbi Yochanan actually also says that there's a difference between space between the star and the Eidim, or between the Eidim and the confirmation of the Bezdin, but he actually argues. He says it's the opposite. Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo yishanu ela bein Eidim l'ksav. Between the Eidim and the writing of the star, so over there, it's only 2 lines, it's going to be a problem. 1 line is not a problem. Why not? Because 1 line, he can't add in 1 line there, because we never learn anything new from 1 line. Avol ben Eidim la'ashraseh, but between the signatures of the Eidim and the confirmation of the Bezdin, over here, afila shita achas nami posel. Even just leaving 1 line empty there will also be a problem. There's still going to be a problem that this person could add in something even in just 1 line. So why is that? So the Gemara now will explain. So Ma'ishno, what's the difference between Eidim la'ashraseh, between the Eidim and the confirmation of the Bezdin? So why is 1 line a problem? What are we concerned about? Didn't we say before we never learn from the last line? So the concern could be similar to what we spoke about before. That he's going to cut the top part of the star. He's going to cut off the top part of the star, and now he has 1 line to work with. What is he going to do on this 1 line above the confirmation of the Bezdin? V'kasav hu ve'edav b'shita achas. He's going to write all the information that he wants, and also the signatures of the Eidim. It's all going to be squeezed into 1 line. Maybe because he can write in 1 line. He writes Reuven owes Shimon $1 million. Not many words, and then you have the signatures of the Eidim all in 1 line. So now, why is that a concern?
Because you have to put the signatures over again. Then
he's going to forge it. This is all a forgery.
He's going to forge.
He's going to forge the signatures, and the reason why he'll be able to use this is because below his forgery, you already have the asher, so the confirmation of the Bezdin. So he's going to look. These signatures were confirmed by the Bezdin already. Now, Kesava, the Gemara adds, Rabbi Yochanan holds, Star habo hu ve'edav b'shita achas kosher. If you have a star that you have the information that's written and then the Eidim signed on the very same line as that information, it's kosher. You can write a star as large as you want, as small as you want. This is a very small star, few words, and Eidim on the very same line, and it's going to be kosher. So therefore, we're concerned in that 1 line that he can write in over there. But if this is the case, if this is what you're concerned that he can do with 1 line between the signatures and the ashrasa of the Bezdin, so if so, ben Eidim l'ksav nami. If there's only 1 line between the Eidim and the writing of the star above it, we should also be concerned for the same thing. Dilma guys loy. He may cut off the entire star from above, and now because of my boy, he's going to write whatever he wants. And v'chasim misadi, and he already has signatures of the Edom over here. Yeah, so why aren't we concerned that he's going to do such a thing? Right. So the Gemara now understands that when you have a star that has a bunch of lines, and there's a last line, you can't learn from the last line. What if you only have one line of the star? You can't say that you don't learn from the last line. This is not a last line. This is the only line of the star. So you have one line, and then you have the Edom below it, and that's it. So it's still going to be a star that we're going to accept. So why are we concerned that he would do this? Even one line of space should also be a problem. And says the Gemara, no, Rabbi Yechanan actually holds, Kasovar, star, haba, hu, bishita achas, v'edov, bishita acheres. When you have a star, even if it's a star, that's just one line, but nevertheless, if it's one line and then the Edom are below it, puzzle. It's still going to be puzzle. Just like we said, we don't learn from a last line of a star, because we're afraid he can add in to that line something. Even if it's only one line in a star, if you have one line and the Edom below it, it's still going to be puzzle. Like, for the reason that we just said, he'll cut off the top of the star and then he'll write in one line over there. Okay, but the Gemara right away asks on this we still didn't explain over here what Rabbi Yechanan is saying. Because what did we say before? That there's an option of writing that one line together with a signature on that line. When do we say that the last line or one line with signatures below it is a problem? That's if there's no signature on this line itself. How about if you have a line where you're writing and there's also a signature on that line itself? If there's a line with a signature on that line itself, then that line is not a problem. Then that line could be used.
A one-line star with a signature.
One-line star, you could have a one-line star, correct. A star, there's no size of how large or small a star could be. You can have one-line star with the signatures on that very line. So this whole concept that we don't learn from a last line, or like Gemara just said, that if you have one line and the signatures below, it's just one line, is only a problem if there's no signatures on the line that you wrote. So the Gemara asks, still there's a problem here. Why aren't we concerned? Dilme kosav hu ve'edav b'shita achas. If you leave even just one line between the writing of the star and the signatures, so that in that one line, what is he going to do? He's going to write information of the star and an edim that are going to sign on that line as well. And we're going to ask this person, what's going on over here? Why do you have 4 edim on the star? You have a line with information and signatures of that line itself, and then below it you have additional edim. So we're going to ask him, why do you have so many edim here? And Va'amar, he's going to say, Ano, l'rabes be'edim, hu Davidi. The reason why I have 4 edim instead of 2 edim is because I want this to be more public to people, so therefore I wanted to have 4 edim on this. So what's the Gemara's question? Just like Rabbi Yechanan is saying, you can't keep one line between the signatures of the edim and the confirmation of the bezin, because in that one line, he's going to cut off the whole star from above. And then in that one line, he's going to write and sign, and now he already has the confirmation. If so, between the writing of the star and the signatures of the edim, he could also write one line. Even though one line with the edim below is a problem, he'll write one line with edim in that line. Then Rabbi Yechanan says it's okay. He has more signatures below. The signature, he's going to say that he wanted more signatures over here. So the Gemara explains, Kasavar, no, Rabbi Yechanan will say, he holds it in such a case, Kolke Hai Gavna, when you see such a kind of strange star, which is one line and signatures, and there's 4 edim here, so now if you want to validate the star, you have an option. You don't have to validate all 4 signatures. You can validate 2 signatures below, or you can validate the 2 signatures of that one line above. In such a case, we're not going to allow him to validate it by the 2 signatures that are below. He's going to have to validate it from those 2 signatures that are on that first line. Why? Because of this. Because we're concerned that those 2 edim that are below may have been there from before on a star that he cut off. And now he added another line and put in new signatures, forged new signatures. So in such a case, we're going to force him to confirm the signatures from above, and therefore the forgery will be caught. So we're not concerned about this.